Alright, Saturday the 29th of February, and we got a bit more snow overnight, about another 5 centimeters of snow. But it's definitely cold out today. It's about -7 Celsius. And we'll make our way to the garage, and we'll continue where we left off. 459 TR3A, all covered in snow. It's supposed to be warmer. It's the beginning of the week, so hopefully a lot of this snow will melt. There's a pretty good indication of how much snow we got over the last couple days. Anyway, alright guys, we've got the car covered up before we start slinging some dust and debris around. We are going to start cleaning up this inner bonnet support structure. So here's what it looks like before. As I mentioned, I'm going to hit this with a wire wheel or a wire brush. Probably a bit of a angle grinder with a flat disc on it, just to clean it up a little bit before we hit it with some blasting media. But I figured I'd give it a bit of a head start, so I don't have to waste too much media, since I don't have a good way of collecting the expended media, and it'll most likely be done outside the garage. I'm going to rig something up, but I don't want to go through bags and bags of media just to get this cleaned up. So we'll give it a head start by using the tools that I mentioned, and we'll come back once we finish this side, or as far as we can go on this side, and then we'll flip it over and we'll do the other side. This by far is the worst side. This is the side that actually touches the bonnet on the underside. This is the underside of this panel, and the top side is not quite as bad, but I'll get to that point where we show you that once we flip this over. Alright, back in a bit. Back after making some mess. Alright guys, a quick look at the bottom after we've done a little bit of work with the angle grinder and the wire wheel. Definitely looking much better than it was. So we'll just give that a quick blast to finish that up once we get some media for our blaster. And we'll get to some of these small areas that I couldn't get to with the wire brush, and down into these pockets is what I'm most concerned about. So we're going to flip it over and have a look at the other side. And I did notice that on this side there's actually some undercoating here at the lip, and there's some back, where else did I see it? It's a little back in here, right back in here. So I'm going to bring out the heat gun, and I'm going to get rid of all this undercoating before I go ahead and strip this, because that undercoating, if you've ever tried to grind it, it just screws up brushes, screws up grinding discs, flap wheels, whatever you have. Just puts a nice black coating of undercoating on your discs and wire wheels. So we don't want to have that, so we'll go ahead and we'll break out the heat gun, clean that up, and then continue to strip it. Alright, we got the top side of the panel cleaned up a little bit and ready for its next step. So once I get some media, we'll finish this project off and get it fully cleaned up before we move on to epoxy primer. Obviously, before we epoxy it, we need to clean up these flanges I'd mentioned where I drilled out the spot welds. So here, along the nose, and of course on the other side as well. I also noticed there's a little bit of a kink here, so I'll have to do a little hammer and dolly work in this area to straighten that out a little bit. Other than that, it looks pretty good. I think it'll clean up okay. So that's it for now. We'll move on to something else. Alright, Sunday, March 1st. Getting a little closer to spring, that's good. A little warmer outside today, that's also good. Continuing on work on that inner support structure for the bonnet. We are on our way up to Princess Auto this morning to buy some crushed glass blasting media. So I think we're going to do that today, or at least we're going to buy the media today. And I think what we'll do is we'll set up a little blasting station over here against this wall. I've got kind of an idea in mind to try and collect the blast media as I spray. So we'll see how that works out. That's the plan anyway. So first step, go buy the blast media. We'll be back. Alright, here's the makings of my mobile sandblasting catching media unit. Came to me in a dream last night. Anyway, we'll get her set up against the wall here and we'll see how this works. Got my green glass grit, size 20-30, 100 pounds of it. 50-pound bags aren't getting any lighter as you get older, that's for sure. All right, we'll get to it. All right, a lot of thought went into this and a lot of time and effort to put this together. We've got our bin with the lid. That's the backsplash, and we've got the nice garbage bag cut with a couple supporting posts to keep it high, keep that side blast contained. So yeah, there we go. So I guess we'll have to see how it works now. So let me charge the compressor up. We'll get that piece. We'll stick it in there, and we'll see how we do. Wish me luck. All right, there's a quick look at the media. So nice, fairly coarse crushed glass. All right, we're just going to do a bucket blast. We've got a plain old gun with a siphon feed, and we got the compressor charging up. So we'll grab my safety gear, some goggles, a mask, and bring the air hose over, and we'll put the piece in there, and I'll give you a quick look before we start. All right, guys, one quick last look of the part in the bin. You should be able to do half and half. Hopefully contain most of the media. So I think we're ready to go. Just got to put my mask on. Crack the door open a little bit. We got a ton of snow outside, so that's why I'm not doing it outside. So let's give her a shot inside. I don't want to really create a lot of dust in here, but hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. All right, we'll be back with a little update in a bit, hopefully. All right, guys, we're about an hour into it, and we've pretty much got this. This is actually the top side. Done completely. There's a few areas I need to go back and take a look at, but you can see I got most of the areas inside fairly clean. There's still a little bit of cleanup to be done here and there, and I missed a few spots here and there that I need to go back and clean up, but for the most part it looks 100% better. Got everything cleaned down underneath the flanges as well, up in the nose and on the sides, so I should be able to make that repair look pretty good. So we're about just to start the other side. My blasting media catcher is not working too bad. It's probably catching about 50% of the media, so it's not 100% effective, but at least it's 50% effective, let's say. So we're just about to start this side, which is the worst side as far as rust is concerned. So I thought I'd give you a before picture of what we're working with, and hopefully it'll be much better the next time we see it. Alright guys, we'll spend about another hour on this side, or maybe a little bit more since it's a little rustier. I'm definitely glad I gave this a head start with the wire brush and the angle grinder yesterday. It's making a little bit quicker work of bending over that sandblasting bin with a hood on, which is kind of hot, a little foggy, and I'm glad it's actually cold outside. Got the door wide open just to get some, not only some air in here, but also to get some of that dust from the media out the door. Alright guys, we'll be back in a bit. Alright guys, about 2.5 hours later, total, here's the completed piece. Again, it's not 100% perfect, but it looks 100% better than it did. It's amazing where they've actually got undercoating. There is actually undercoating inside these holes here, if you can believe that. So that's proving a little bit difficult to get out, but it's much, much better than it was, if you remember how rusty it was down in there. So that definitely looks better. I could do a little bit more of a blasting job back in the corners, but I think overall it's pretty good. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the way that turned out. And we got all these little hard to reach areas all cleaned out. So the next step is going to be to finish welding these flanges and fixing these flanges, and then following that we'll get this into epoxy primer. So that's the plan, although that's not going to happen today. I think we're going to be calling it a day out here. Going to get ready for work tomorrow, so I think that's it for today. At least we made some progress, and we'll get out here and maybe do a little bit of this welding repairs during the week. Alright, that's it for now guys. Thanks for watching. Alright guys, happy Monday, March the 2nd, and we're back on the project tonight. We're going to do a bit of a power hour out here tonight. I want to try to keep the momentum going. I don't particularly like getting out here on Mondays. Usually Mondays are kind of a difficult day at work. I'm sure they're the same for a lot of people getting back into the office on Monday. Anyway, we'll, like I said, we'll make a short power hour of it out here tonight. Do a little welding. We'll take the hammer and dolly and sort of beat this flange out a little bit, and we'll get the copper backing plate and we'll fill up these holes on this flange the best we can to get this ready to go back under the bonnet where this structure belongs. So before I leave this little segment, just wanted to wish my biggest fan a happy birthday today. I'm not going to say how old she is, but happy birthday to my mom. Hopefully you had a great day, Mom. Anyway, we'll break out the welder. All right, guys, so we've got that flange straightened out pretty well, and we've got it just ground down, nice and clean metal. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to plug weld these holes shut, at least the ones that are open, and I'm just going to fill, there's a few that are not through. I'm just going to fill those with some weld and then grind them down. So here's what I do. I use a copper backing plate, and normally what I do to make my copper backing plates is I just get a piece of copper plumbing, and I just pound it flat and end up with a little square or rectangle, and I usually just clamp it in behind there as my backing piece, and it's a bit of a heat sink and a back piece at the same time. So that's what the plan is. So we'll go ahead and fill all those holes up, then we'll grind them down smooth, and it should be good as new and ready to go back on the car eventually after epoxy primer. That's what we're going to do. We're going to break out the welder. Alright guys, that looks a little better. Well, it's all repaired, ready to go back on the car. So we're good with that. So I think we'll call that power hour for tonight, and we'll get out here tomorrow night and we'll do the same on the nose of the structural piece as well as the other side of this flange piece. That'll be for another night. So have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching. Well, I've got no idea whether this is going to work or not, but I have no viewfinder left on my camera. So anyway, we'll give it a shot without the viewfinder, and hopefully this is taking some video. Anyway, we're on the opposite side of that closing panel tonight. It's Tuesday, the 3rd of March, and it's coming up about 8 p.m. So again, we'll do a bit of a power hour out here, and we'll go ahead and we'll clean up this edge, or this flange, and we'll get the holes welded up and ground down and looking like new. So that's what we're off to tonight. All right, guys, the other flange is now fixed and ground down, so that's looking good. So the only thing left we have to do now is to do the nose piece, and I think we'll call it a night out here. We'll come back out tomorrow night, which will be Wednesday after work, and we'll do the same process. We'll plug those holes and then grind them down nice and flat, and we'll move on from there. All right, that's it. Hey guys, welcome back. Wednesday night, 4th of March, power hour. Let's get right back into it. We're going to fix up this nose flange piece, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a couple of witnesses. Probably leave this one alone. We'll leave one of the center marks alone. We'll leave one of the other end ones alone, just to be able to line this up along the front of the nose of the car. I can obviously align it with the holes that are there currently that I made in the bonnet versus what's here on this bonnet structure, and that'll help me to align it once I get back to attaching it to the underside of the bonnet. So that's what we're planning on doing. So anyway, we're going to clean this flange up a bit, and we're going to proceed to weld those holes, the rest of those holes, shut, and then we'll move on to something else. All right, guys, another little project completed. We've got that welded up and ground down, with the exception of those what I call witness marks, one here on the outside, one here on the middle, and the other one on the other side. So that'll help us with the alignment once we come to welding this back into the nose of the underside of the bonnet. The only other area that I need to be concerned about is these few little holes here, and these were attachment points for this structural piece that runs from the bonnet structure at the front to the rear edge of the bonnet underneath. So that kind of goes something like this. So we'll have to clean this piece up. Pretty rusty on the inside, as you can see, so we'll clean that up the best we can with the wire brush and the angle grinders, and then we'll run it through the same process and make a mess again with the media blaster, but that certainly is effective. It's effective at cleaning the piece and effective at making a mess out of my garage at the same time. But hey, got to do what you got to do. Anyway, so we're getting closer. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this video tonight so you can see where I'm at. Getting pretty close to getting this into the final goal, which is obviously getting this into epoxy primer. I think I'm seeing Sunday this week is supposed to be +10 outside, +10 Celsius. So that might be a good day to crank the heat up in the garage and try to get this into epoxy at least. Just a quick note on that. So obviously I want to finish this piece before the weekend as well in order to get that into epoxy. But I also need to do a little bit of work on the underside of the bonnet. I did clean it up as best as possible with a wire brush, and I did rust convert it. But I'm thinking I might want to actually maybe give it a quick media blast under the front lip of that bonnet just to make sure I got all the rust out of there before that gets epoxy primed, because the interior of the hood will need to be epoxy primed before this structural piece goes back in as well. So we got to kind of think about how we're going to put this together. So I guess that's it for tonight, guys. Again, thanks for watching and commenting, and we'll see you out here probably tomorrow night. Thanks, guys.